Welcome to the Indigenous Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have Dante Biss-Grayson with me, who is the owner of Sky Eagle Collection. And we will be talking about his business and his journey. So thank you for being here with me, Dante. And as we get started, if you could just introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Dante Biss-Grayson. I'm from the Osage Nation, Eagle Clan, and my Osage name is Waseata, which means first son of the Eagle Clan. In our ways, that's how we like to introduce ourselves. I'm the co-founder of the Sky Eagle Collection. I started it with my wife, and it was kind of based out of you know our daughter being born and then the pandemic. And I'm also a veteran, so I was overseas a long time. But it was just a whole series of different items that happened at the same time that created a Sky Eagle collection, and I'm definitely happy to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. It's really interesting to me because a lot of the businesses that I've spoken with
Mhm.
were started like as an through from inspiration of like a child being born and then like that birthed the business as well, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about that journey, and what led you to starting Sky Eagle? Was it something that you always thought of, or did it just kind of like what what were the different pieces that kind of
Mhm.
led to starting your business?
Sure. So I'll go kind of way back. Um, my parents, my adopted father was Earl Biss, and my mom, Gina Gray. They were both fairly well-known artists in the Southwest. So I grew up in Santa Fe. I was born in Santa Fe. I'm one of the few Osages that were born out this way. And I grew up around the studios and some amazing mentors and artists and inspirations, like Alan Hauser. I got to meet him. So I grew up in that world, and we lived up in Aspen as well. So around the art world. And then I studied overseas in Amsterdam at the Academy, Gerrit Rietveld, and also at Institute of American Indian Arts. And then I joined the military kind of out of a sense of serving. But that was all before 9/11, and 9/11 happened. And it was a series of these just, watershed moments in my life that defined, who I am. And so 9/11 happened, and I was like, well, we just, we never leave anyone behind. And we just kept on going. So I was active duty for a long time, and then I was a contractor for a long time. Um, of the warrior spirit. And if you look at the stats, a lot of we're the highest percentage Native Americans who volunteer for the military, even though we have, historical, genocide and trauma. We still, serve and this capacity. So came back, case of PTSD. Still, I work through that. I deal with that. I opened my studio because I had been a painter before, and I still am. It was just my first inclination to, how do I express things? How do I externalize this trauma? And I did a whole series to bring awareness about the large amount of veterans who commit suicide every day. And there's some stats out there, it's like 22, and it fluctuates, but it's just too many. And I almost became, one of the stats myself. And like you said, family is one in Native peoples. The birth of my daughter, her name Ella Sky Eagle, and she's Eagle Clan. And my wife and I, we had started thinking about, what if we did some of these designs like on clothing, and early discussions. And that's when I found out about MMIW, the missing murdered Indigenous women's epidemic. And as a first son, it's important, to protect your family, be a leader in your tribe, protecting our ways. But it's also that warrior spirit, so it kind of infuses like, well, this is a horrible tragedy at MMIW and the people. What can we do about it? And it's not like the military, we're just like, okay, we mobilize and take care of business. It's more of a, what could I do in a way that brings awareness but also inspires action? Because I want to, I don't want, my family to be impacted by this, and I want the world to know that this, MMIW is happening. So that's kind of when I started working on designing the red hand ribbon skirts, and they were real modern. I never wanted to. I want to make sure to clarify. It's like I do some of my ceremonies, but fashion is real contemporary. I want to push it out there in that way, so it's respectful. And then the pandemic hit, and we just were in the studio. We're living on the Navajo Nation, and we were in the studio a lot. And we're just like, okay, what if we tried this? What if we tried this? And I wasn't really like a social media person either. And we started using social media. And as they say, the things like started blowing up, and people were like, "Oh, let's buy this," and we kept selling out, selling out. So it just kind of that was the impetus, of wanting to, still be a warrior, but in a different way to like, express to the world, these things that are impacting Indian country.
Um, you mentioned some of your designs. Can you talk a little bit more about the inspiration and also, I guess kind of the journey of like using your designs and then like putting them out into the world. And I know you have two patents. I would love to hear more about that process, but just can you speak more about that and like the designs and all of that whole
Yeah,
thing?
sure, absolutely. You know, I I mentioned I studied in Amsterdam at a design academy, and I studied fine art. So I'm kind of like, in a lot of ways, coming from the left field, right field, however you want to say it. I didn't really grow up saying, "Oh, I'm going to be a fashion designer," and this is the passion. My passion was art, fine art, and still is. So maybe I see the perspective a little bit different in the world of fashion because I'm influenced by the Renaissance. I'm influenced by like Da Vinci. He designed a purse, and he designed some of the clothing for the Swiss Guard. And I also like the Flemish designers and then some modern contemporaries like Francis Bacon. And then I've always appreciated, just beauty, just true beauty and how I express like a sunset or how I feel on a canvas. I translated that into clothing, because a lot of times people wear a Skygo collection and they're like, okay, like just yesterday it was in the White House next to the president, and they're wearing Skygo, and I'm like, yes, because it's like it's a few things. It's like it's very empowering. And clothing is just like you feel strong and beautiful, and it can really uplift yourself. And when you walk into a room, and if you're turning heads and people are like, what is that, what is that, you feel good, because if you look good you feel good, that type of thing. So it really infuses those concepts of like expressionism and impressionism into clothing, because it's like a blank canvas for me. And then the other point is like native peoples, we've always, if you look at the different tribes, different areas, uh, warrior clothing or clothing, whether it be utility or for ceremony, it was always something that was like it looked good. It was like it was to stand out. It's like it defined who you are in a different character. Because like in our tribe we have different districts, and different ribbon work can define what district you're from. So it's kind of like you're expressing yourself to the world that, hey, I'm from this area. This is how we look, that type of thing. So those were the areas that I kind of really influenced me. And then I kind of branched out into like couture, and then into like ready to wear. And then I just kind of like I've been in my like renaissance. And maybe it was because, they call it what, the indigenous fashion renaissance is happening. Everyone from like Lloyd Keevan-New, who, like the godfather of the golden age, and then these other designers who came along. But right now we're in this time period where so many designers are out there. And I was overseas for like 3,000 days in the combat zone, and I didn't have time to really like do anything. A lot of notes, a lot of notes. So when I came back, it's just like this flood of ideas, and I just kept going, going. And then you start putting on your business hat, and you're like, okay, I got to look at analytics as well, and like, okay, where does the, not be the trend, like be bold, but also know that your customer, there's like a big, segment there where you're like, okay, this is something we should do, So it's a matter of like growth as an entrepreneur versus just, a singular designer.
Um, so how would you say like entrepreneurship has impacted your daily life as well as like the life of your family and your community?
Sure. I originally started, as a way to express myself. So for me, it's very healing, having these projects to keep me busy as far as like focusing on something. Because with PTSD, like you just have these like series of images that can like hit you like a wave. So for me, it's very therapeutic. Um, but also I've applied, what I learned in the military was strategic planning, 2-year, 3-year, 5-year plans for, our growth strategies for our business and these different, benchmarks that we hit. So I love it because it's one, it's a fun field to be in. Fashion is this, it's really great. We start producing shows and you got the models, photographers, makeup and all them. And it's just like it's a really great community. Family wise, we love it. We just we do a lot. We produce a lot. We a lot of content, but we also balance it, like Mondays we take off, we just kind of like unplug, that type of thing. So it's being an entrepreneur, that the entrepreneur spirit, as people mention, uh, if you've got it, you got something that you really love, then as they say, you never work a day in your life. Like we love what we're doing, and every day we're just like, okay, we know what the week is like and what the month is like or the quarter's like. So it's like it's real motivating, because the work I feel is good. Our vision and our mission of our, of the entrepreneur of Skygo collection is one that, uplifts and gives back. It's not just like a big ego brand where it's like me. It's like we expanded it to an actual fashion house and a label. So I love it, and I'm enjoying this ride, as they say.
As you've been growing and building your business, what are some challenges that you have encountered um, with that? I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about the challenges and then how you've overcome them or how you're working to overcome them.
Sure. Back to strategy, growth was our challenge in the beginning, just extreme growth, sales, and then, the social media presence. And we've finally gotten into like an operational tempo where it's more like in cycles. We've decided, every 2 years we're going to do like a biennale down in Santa Fe, produce our own shows. In the very beginning, we were just doing massive collections because I just have stacks of designs and I was plugging them in there. So our tempo was really high for those first couple of years. Also in the very beginning, risk strategies as far as how much, capital outlay we want to do for different, investments of our product. You know, at one point there was a few times when we were like right down to zero because like I just used a in the beginning the seed capital. I sold a few paintings and then we invested like $2,000 into our business and we're like, just give it a shot, you never know, right? And then there was a few times in the beginning where, the accounts were like really low and I was like, but we had a lot of things moving and we had a lot of moving pieces. So now we're at the point where we're kind of maturing the business and things are leveling off and we can kind of see where the cash flow is coming from, where we can like slow it down every few years, but then every few years we want to ramp it up as well to really expand. So I guess that's one of those challenges is like balancing, the cost of overhead, with, the amount of release of product, that you want to do. But we've diversified our portfolio because we know fashion can end any day too. Like I'm a big fan of Shark Tank, like those guys are in there and then the guy who he's one of the fashion designers, Damon Williams or whatever. He's like, yeah, FUBU was a thing and then FUBU wasn't a thing, but I had all these other projects or other brands. So we've expanded into like a multi-brand, kind of to hedge things, where we're producing our own shows, we're consulting with other brands, where the production has been real fun, that area. So it kind of balances out where we get that operational tempo where we need it, and that's one of the successes, but it was also a challenge.
And your business is located in Taos,
Mhm.
correct? Yeah.
Yep,
But do you sell online as well? What does that look like?
sure. Back to the timing. It was a confluence, as I say, a whole series of ideas happening. Right when the lockdown happened for the pandemic, because we're like e-commerce, like 90% of our business is e-commerce. We have a headquarters in Taos, New Mexico, in the historic district. and that's actually it's doing really well too for a brick and mortar, but we never had plans for brick and mortar. So right as we were like ramping up, with our growth, is the e-commerce platforms. So we were at the right time, the right place, because we were like one of the first people to start using the reels, start using these as like e-commerce versus just like a social media. Also, a lot of the big fashion houses like the Dior's, the Tom Fords, they were trying to pivot into this space when we were already in the space. Because it's not like in the, decades ago, fashion was always like glossy, glam, magazine, everything was polished and all these kind of things. What now is happening is people want to see behind the scenes. They want to see how things are made. They want to see the process, the production. They want to, know who they're supporting, that type of thing. So we were totally doing that, leveraging social media, back and forth. So now, our customer base with e-commerce is huge, and we have a huge reach on social media. It's in the millions as far as views, and we got customers in Europe and Australia, Canada, North America. So we're kind of in I guess, a unique spot where we're trying to pivot into a brick and mortar, which is like just it naturally grows here in Taos because we're of our location. So we're gonna have to like take on more staff and all that. But yeah, those are the markets. E-commerce. We live in the digital age, and if you know how to navigate that, the influence side of things, there's a lot of success out there.
You mentioned probably having to take on more staff. I'm curious how many jobs you've created since you started your business.
Sure. Well, we use a lot of like independent contractors. So, for instance, the models, the makeup when we do our productions. But now, my accountant, they said we got to do this, because I do the accounting, but I have a consultant. I got to formalize that because, so I mean, we've worked with over 100 people, and we've collaborated probably with about, 20, 30 different brands and individuals. So as far as, creating like professional growth, I think that's been a big focus. But down the road, I mean, once we get that one staff member who can do the shop, I mean, we're at this crossroads of growth. How far do we want to reach, or do we want to reach that far, or is it that Sky Eagle is going to do that, or is it our production or our other brand? So we're kind of like, we're comfortable where we're at right now. We're kind of mulling over just how far we want to grow, because I would love to create more jobs as far as like open a couturier studio of 20 seamstresses, and train them up, and so that would be like our 10-15 year plan.
That's amazing though, even just creating those contractor jobs, especially in a place like New Mexico, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
So congratulations and thank you for like your contributions to the New Mexico economy. Because I mean, it is a big deal, especially for our state, to provide those types of opportunities, even just for contractors. Um, I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit, because for those of you listening who don't already know, UNM Rainforest Innovations, we do economic development for UNM, but we also do patenting, for the technologies at UNM. So I was just wanting to learn more about that process, because you mentioned you have two patents, and
Mhm.
for our program, with a lot of the discovery, a big concern that I think a lot of artists and creatives have,
Mhm.
indigenous artists and creatives, is that intellectual property and protecting their designs. So many things get copied and then sold for cheap on Amazon. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about that experience and that whole process that you went through, getting those two patents.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also received two trademarks for Sky Eagle collection, in Canada and also USA. The I guess the big thing is the concept of building an airplane while you're flying it. I really like that idea, because a lot of time entrepreneurs, I feel like they overthink things and they overplan things, and by the time they hit go, a couple years ago happened, and like your plan should be more flexible in a lot of ways. Trademark, absolutely. Patent, absolutely. If your strategy is to license that out to, a large box store like Nordstrom's or something like that, JC Penney, or there's other ones, in Canada and Europe. That's definitely the route to go. If you have something that's so unique, like an invention, for sure. But I have two design patents, meaning those designs are ours, but having that process required a lot of capital, lawyers, and time, effort, research, all these different things. Where, let's say, I just saw this one recently. Some native lady, she designed. She's a beater, and then she did a sticker of Mike Tyson when he was at his butt or whatever. It was a whole thing. There's a recent fight was trending, and it was a cool sticker. And then within a day, somebody on Etsy has stolen it. Somebody over here has stolen it, and it was this whole thing. Does she need to go through the whole process to get like a patent just on that? Because it takes a while, or just the trademark itself. I mean, those watermarks, it's a very simple way to do it, the watermark, and then, it's hard to market it. So it's definitely a tricky world, but having, you know, I was lucky enough to, and bold enough, I guess, is to retain a lawyer, a native firm, and they walked me through the process, and it took a while, and it's not just initial fees, it's extended fees, drawing fees, it's all these different things. And could I, at the end of it, right now, apply for it on my own? Possibly, because I was paying to learn, that type of thing. But it's a bold thing in the world of fashion, indigenous design, fine arts, pottery, jewelry, all those things. Trademark, I would say absolutely, but that patent part, definitely take a hard look at it, because outlaying that much money definitely has to be a big strategy, because it can be, very costly. But also, what is that strategy? Are you going to go to Magic, which is the largest, fashion trade show in the United States? Are you going to go overseas? There's one in London, there's one in Paris. Are you going to present this to the big fashion houses and then license it that way? So we're at that point where we did get two patents, and now our strategy is to get in front of Dior, get in front of Burberry, for instance, Manolo Blanc, one of these big houses, and see if they want, one, if they want to collab, but two, if they want to license this. So that's kind of the bigger look that we're looking at. And you never know. It's a shot on goal type of situation. I'm so proud that I got the patent, but now it's like, okay, now what do I do with it? Like like how do I? It's protected in that way, but I got to put on my, my owner hat and be like, okay, let's make some money. Like, like how do we leverage all of that? So I'm at that point in the process, which is I've gotten over a couple big hurdles, two patents approved, which is huge. And now I'm at the point where, like, okay, now we got to see where we're going to go with it.
Yeah, it's an asset. It's another asset that you have, so it's just kind of strategizing how you're going to use it.
Mhm.
And I'm just to speak to what you were saying is like it's not everyone needs a patent or is going to even have something that's patentable,
Mhm.
but depending on what like your vision for your business is, it's definitely something to consider. And trademarks, of course,
Yeah.
are important, period. You want to get your business trademarked because that is an asset and it's a little easier process
Yeah,
than the patenting
absolutely.
process. But congratulations, because I know
Yeah.
um, I see like the process that I don't work so much in the tech transfer side of things here, but I see how long it takes
Mhm.
to get that done. So congratulations, and I'm excited to see what you do with that. Um, I am wondering, like as you've gone through your business and like creating it, growing it, were there any resources that you tapped into here in New Mexico or in the US?
Mhm.
Um, Organizations, people that really helped you along the way? Are there any people that you would like to share with others listening?
Sure. I was born in Santa Fe, so I'm a New Mexican, and I'm real proud of being from here. Um, a lot of it was research, a lot of it was learning as we go, but also once we learned as we went along, there's different groups. Like we got a really awesome sewing machine from a I think a New Mexico Economic Development grant. There's like these micro grants, and I really appreciate them because that was awesome. It was like we got a industrial sewing machine. We had to pay for it and then they reimbursed us and all that. So I think programs like that are great. Um, we've applied to, there's a few of them nationally as well that are like First People's Fund. We've applied there, and there's a lot of resources in that way. And then, like locally, I would say like collaboration, I think is one of the keys to growth and also to sustaining growth because collaboration, I mean, it creates a dynamic outcome. For instance, the Bishop's Lodge Resort in Santa Fe, they reached out to us a few years ago and they're like, we couldn't get into your other show. We'd love to have a show here. And then so we produced this whole show with, New Mexico talent, New Mexico models. And we really supported, gave priority to those tribes and those entrepreneurs and like those DJs who are like local, so I feel like that is one way, but also like it's just a resource of I guess motivation is a huge thing because if a lot of times some people are like, well, if somebody gave me something, then I'd be okay and I'd do it. It's like, well, how about you just get up, get off the couch, and then every day put in that work because those things will come towards you. You never know. There'll be like there's a ski lift pitch up here. There's these different programs and all that, and it's a matter of like just give it a shot. Get out there, all the ones that you have, schedule yourself and be like, I'm going to apply for this, and if you don't get it, apply again. Because a lot of times people are like, oh man, I didn't get it. Entrepreneur, small business, you got to get up every day because like you got to keep on pushing it. So there was a few resources, some people did reach out, give some advice, that type of thing. But for the majority, we've been just testing the market and then growing, organically, but also with focus.
Are there any like recommendations or areas where you see like New Mexico could do better in like supporting small businesses like yourself? Like, is there anything missing that like we could add to
Yeah.
our state?
Yeah. I have a few comments on that for sure. A lot of these grants are geared towards non-for-profits. And it's almost to the point of like, okay, I'm going to start my own non-for-profit. Not saying they're doing anything wrong or nothing like that. For instance, New Mexico Arts has a grant for veterans, and I was like, yes, I do work with veterans. I have projects with them, and then I go in there and I'm like, no, it's only you got to be registered, whole board, the whole thing. And I'm like, well, I am an S corp, I am registered with the corporate, of New Mexico. So I would say something like that because when we're talking about small business, there's like micro business, like there's different levels to that. And I totally understand we like, yes, small business and maybe we shouldn't be giving to a for-profit company that has 1,000 employees and all this different thing. But there's like a certain level there where like we're still scraping along. We still need help. You know what I mean? It's just me and my wife, and we might have a part-time employee, and we've created all these opportunities for other people in New Mexico. So that there's value in that. It's just a matter of like how do we recognize that? Because you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of companies that are like, I got my LLC and I'm super proud. I'm like, right on. And it's like, but then you look at these potential, opportunities or these grants or that type of thing, and then it just kind of gravitates to a select few of organizations that meet it. And I'm like, well, we're also doing good work. So I guess that would be the big challenge.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. We definitely, part of our work is, to take in that information and then try to provide those resources wherever there might be gaps, or at least advocate for it.
Mhm.
So one last question that I have for you, is just if someone is interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, and maybe they haven't taken the leap or they have, but they're just kind of feeling discouraged. What is like one piece of advice or words of wisdom that you would give to someone kind of they have an idea, they want to do something, but maybe they haven't started it yet?
Sure. Being a veteran, I've lived in a lot of different countries that don't have the freedoms that we have. So just understanding, putting it in perspective that free commerce and being able to start a business is not a freedom that all people in all countries have, and the struggles and the opportunities that are available in the United States. So I would put that in the forefront, that, hey, we live in a society and a community that if you want to build X, Y, and Z, if you want to start this business, more power to you, that type of thing. And that's the freedom part. The other one is, don't fall in love with your first idea. Like a lot of people get super passionate. Like I said, I grew up in the fine arts, but I'm over here in fashion now, and I still do fine art. I love it. I do little mosaics and my paintings, and I have a gallery here as well. But you can be humble in a lot of ways too, to look at your dream versus look at it as a business person, right? Sometimes you may explore your idea and it may fail, and that's fine, because that's an opportunity to grow into a different area. So it's a matter of like opening your aperture, opening your perspective, and just know that once you get into it, you may have to adjust your business plan. You may have to adjust X, Y, and Z. You may find yourself in another area altogether. And so long as you're like happy and content with the work that you're doing and it's fulfilling, then I say you're on the right path. And even if your first dream doesn't come true, there's always another dream, right? Because that's it's just a matter of like entrepreneurs, our spirit is a matter of like motivating, and to always do that, because somebody will be like, oh, my idea didn't work. Well, you got other ideas, and you can keep on pushing, and you have the opportunity to get up tomorrow and do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing
You got it.
that. So if people are listening and they want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to find your collection, or like your website? Where can they find you at,
Mhm.
to connect further?
Yeah. We're all over Instagram, so social media, Sky Eagle Collection. We're the first one that pops up on Google. We take appointments in Taos, so anybody ever comes up to Taos, we can do that. We're also going to be producing a Taos Indian market in the spring, so we'll actually be in person, and we're going to have a bunch of other designers. We're going to give them a free space, not like Sway or anything like that. Just like, here's some space, you know. Let's make, here's a opportunity for you. We have a website, skyeaglecollection.com, and then in um, you know, our website, also in our social media, it has our other brands. We have a ranchwear brand, we have a consulting brand, production company, on-demand service. So all these different areas that we're slowly growing up as Sky Eagle is our core business. But yeah, search Sky Eagle Collection. You can DM us because we're always like receptive, and our numbers are on there as well.
Awesome. And I will definitely link all of those in the description so that people can just easily click them.
Okay.
But thank you so much,
Yeah.
Dante, for coming on here. I know you're super busy, but it was really a blessing to have you on, and thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom with us.
You got it. Peace.
Thank you. Bye.